Hello and welcome back to Emerald County. Ladies and gentlemen, today is part 27 and we begin with a sweeping pass over the mountain that once upon a time looked over Emerald City. But Emerald City is no more. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, for the third time I've gone ahead and pulled the city apart. And I would like to explain why. I've been looking at Emerald County over these last couple of weeks and working on little bits here and there. But the city has always annoyed me. It's been this constant nagging feeling in the back of my mind because it just wasn't right. So I spent some time deleting every road and building and every placed prop that I'd placed, which took a while, and I started from scratch. And that, for me, was an amazing feeling because I feel like I've learned a lot of things in the downtime since the last episode of Emerald County, and even with the vanilla Let's Play that cropped up shortly before I announced Emerald County was going on a brief hiatus. I've learned a lot of things, and I kind of wanted to build something that took all of those things and applied them. So that's what I tried to do, and hopefully that's what I have achieved here. This entire city, Emerald City itself, situated quite central in Emerald County, is somewhat inspired by Manhattan. I would say that's fair. I had Google Maps open on my second screen for the entire build process, and I had my camera firmly fixed on Lower Manhattan. So there are going to be some little beats that you would find in Manhattan, also here in Emerald City. That's not to say it's a direct clone or anywhere near as interesting to look at, but I am very happy with where we get to. I always looked at the old high-rise highway, and whilst I thought it was cool, every time I finished it, I sort of looked back on it and went, no, there's something about it just isn't right. Which is why I went to Google Maps and why I decided that I needed to look at some real-world locations and draw inspiration from those to figure out exactly what is up with my buildings. Why is my section of skyscrapers, my high-rise highway, looking a bit weird? And the answer was simply that skyscrapers, big skyscrapers, aren't all that close together. When you look at Lower Manhattan, you'll find that there are a lot of very tall buildings close together, but the skyscrapers, the One World Trade Center, the Empire State Building, all of those buildings are quite spread out. The iconic buildings are not just on one road. So what I wound up doing was initially creating this space here, which isn't where all of those buildings are going to go. This space is actually going to be mostly there for some commercial and residential zoning. I use the Brooklyn style on this area a little bit later in the video. But that's what this area is going to be for, as well as a transport hub. As you saw, there is a bus station and a pretty big train station in there, which will hopefully allow a lot of people into the city. Now, this area here is where all of those skyscrapers are going to go. It is going to be a massive grid, and I'm going to say that right off the bat because I know not everyone's going to be happy about that, but if you look at Manhattan and you look at New York, and I was blown away by this. I've always known New York was a big city, but I've never, for whatever reason, gone in and looked at New York in detail. And it is just a grid. It's grid after grid and block after block, and it is crazy. I always loved New York City. I've loved so many of the things that come out of New York City, but looking at it like that in such intricate detail, and specifically looking at the road layouts, I was blown away. I really was, and I'm surprised I hadn't done this before. But that's beside the point. I've gone and looked at it, and I've taken some inspirations from Lower Manhattan, and there's a few more inspirations I'm going to take here and there. Obviously, the big diagonal avenues coming off of the main avenues and the main arteries through the area are important to have. We have a big avenue going around that lower area as well. I am also going to be playing with some keys and making effectively a big pedestrian zone around the outer edge of what is my own slightly bootleg version of Lower Manhattan. Now, what I'm doing here is just placing out all of the skyscrapers that I kind of want to place in the area. The big yellow Ghost in the Shell building, I don't actually end up placing, because I had a look at it and it just seems a little bit out of place. It wasn't something I was thinking really fit the style of everything else. Every other building, I think, does eventually go in. I don't exactly get around to placing all of the government and city hall buildings. I do eventually get around to putting a cathedral in, which I was actually very happy about. I think the cathedral and where I put it in the area around it ends up looking really, really good. So that's always nice. It's always good when you place something and go, you know what? That's not bad. I will say, at this point of the build, I was looking at this and going, please don't, in 60 minutes time, have me look back on this and go, yeah, let's do that all again. Because I spent a very long time just working on all of these things, and between the cuts in this video, there was like an hour or 2 hours spent just trying to make sure everything worked and testing things, saving the game, testing something, loading it back up, and then applying it in a slightly different way that was different to testing but works better. It was just a series of make sure this works so that I don't do this again. And my plan with Emerald County going forward is that this episode and next episode are going to be focused on finishing the new Emerald City, and then we go back out into the county. These are the last 2 episodes where we're going to focus on the city before we go out into the county. And I do have some interesting news about the county. I've decided to get the 81 tiles mod. So there is a lot more space to play with, and I'm actually really excited about that because it means I can slightly change my scale. I've been building everything sort of in this small scale. Applesby is an example of that. Castle Rock, way back at the beginning, is an example of that. Even the original Emerald City, or cities, are examples of that. They were all quite small. This one is still going to be small. It's going to be a miniature city. It's not going to be full size, but it's going to be bigger than what the, I suppose, original Emerald City was going to be. So, what are we doing at the moment? Well, this is the beginning of that park area that I talked about that is going to wrap around this, what I refer to, I guess, as the southern edge. I guess it's technically the northern edge because I've always referred to Emerald City being sort of northwest of Castle Rock. So I guess technically we're working on the northern edge of the city, putting these keys in here. Gonna put a lot of pedestrian paths in here. Got a couple of nice big fancy buildings in here as well. And then it came time to go in and put the zone, or not the zone, sorry, the district into here, because as it turns out, this map's default theme is the European one, which I had completely forgotten about considering it's been, or had been, a month since I had even touched this map. I've just been having a lot of fun with vanilla, which is surprising because a lot of people I was talking to about it were saying, are you sure you even want to touch Vanilla City Skylines after playing with all of these mods? And it turns out it was absolutely worth doing. It was so much fun, and it continues to be so much fun. Anyway, enough about, promoting one of my other series that you may or may not watch. It's entirely up to you. This building here, I'm pretty sure that is just a shopping mall. I love what I end up doing with that later. I put some pools sort of behind it so it looks like it is sort of a shopping mall. Maybe sort of take your kids here, you can have a good time and go to the pools, do some shopping, do whatever, go to a movie, maybe there's a cinema screen or 2 in there, I don't know. I just thought it'd be really cool to put some decorations around it like that. And again, I was looking at Manhattan, and there's an area on the, I think, sort of southwest of the city of Manhattan, where there are some what look like pools. They're probably fountains, but I decided to go with pools because I thought pools would be kind of nice. Now, this is the cathedral that I was talking about. I decided I absolutely wanted a cathedral by the water. So I went ahead and put it just, well, by the river. A little bit of zoning beside it, some parking spaces, and obviously the pathways that I have put around it already. And then I actually decided that, you know what, we probably need a lot of parking through the city, so I went and did a bit of that, which I actually think really helps just sell this as a city. And it's kind of useless space. It doesn't really do anything. It's not zoning. It's not really making money, but I was surprised looking at it because the parking space is kind of... I don't want to say they sold me on the city. They didn't really... I didn't look at the parking spaces and go, oh yeah, that's it. But it's something I'm going to take away from this particular build process, this particular episode. I'm going to take away the fact that when you have an area of high-rise buildings, put a lot of parking around them. Even if it is just a big area of grey space, put a lot of parking around them because there's going to be a lot of people in those buildings. There's thousands upon thousands of people that should technically be in those buildings. Even if City Skylines doesn't register the tens of thousands of people that should be there, having the parking makes it look just that bit more realistic. Anyway, I headed back up into the other area of the city, the area we built initially, and made some changes here and there, added some office zoning so that we can transition away from what are going to be the smaller Brooklyn-style buildings towards the offices, which will be a bit bigger and a bit more modern looking, towards this area of commercial zoning in the middle, and then we'll be with the bigger buildings. So basically the city is going to get taller as you get to this sort of lower Manhattan-style area. And this is the point at which I decided to get on with decoration. Something I hadn't done in City Skylines in so long, except for, again, playing around with it in vanilla. And I was so excited. I'm slightly disappointed I didn't stick with the little bushes there. I love how they look, you know, just the irregular bushes around an area, but I decided to stick with the actual hedges that we have here, and I know that they don't line up perfectly. There is sort of an anti-aliasing issue, I guess, with the lines that you draw to place these props, but when you have a whole bunch of them just lining pathways, it doesn't really matter. From above, it just ends up looking really good, and I am so pleased with how this whole area ends up looking. It's not done. There is, by the way, a real-time section coming up after all of this time-lapse. The time-lapse is like 18 minutes long. I spent like 3 hours on this whole, I guess, section, and it's not even done. I want to chuck... There's about 20 minutes, maybe more. I haven't recorded it yet. Don't tell anyone. I'm going to record it after I've done this bit of commentary. There's going to be a bit of real-time stuff at the end where I sort of go into some of the builds here in a bit more detail, show you things up close, do a bit of work up close and sort of in real time. But this whole process took 3 hours, and it was worth it. It's obviously not the most amount of time I could have spent on it, but I did a lot of testing outside of that. That's 3 hours of recording. Let's not, you know, count how long I spent not recording, because I really don't want to even think about how long I spent building this and not eating / drinking. I may have got slightly carried away with this build process because I was listening to a whole bunch of music as I did it as well, so I just got completely carried away with it and forgot that, oh yeah, I should probably eat and drink. That would be a pretty good idea. Anyway, the decoration around the church stays fairly minimal. I do these sort of orange flower beds with some red in the middle and some trees and all that stuff, but generally I wanted to keep a lot of open space. I do line almost... In fact, I think I line every area of grass with some bushes, which I liked. I do really like that, but I don't overdo it. I don't add thick grass to every open patch of land. I don't cover every bit of it with trees. I do put some dense trees in. I use some big oak trees. But again, I did that because while I was looking at Lower Manhattan, again, there were a lot of areas of fairly dense trees. Now, keep in mind, this is looking at it from above, so maybe below they're not that dense, but it looked like there were some fairly dense trees going on there, and I actually like it. Again, it's not completely finished. This is effectively going to be a two-part finale to Emerald City, so we do have some stuff to do between this episode and the next one, and some stuff to do in the next episode as well as the real-time bit at the end of this one. But it was just great going in and lining all of this space, because it makes it come together, you know? You hide those ugly lines at the sides of the pathways and just make it look like it's planned and decorated, and someone in the city, you know, the council, the government, or whoever has gone, you know what, let's actually look after the city, and it's nice. It is really, really nice. Something I realize I haven't talked about, actually, just speaking about hiding lines, is we're using a different map theme. We're not using the North Dark map theme that I was using with Emerald County originally. And the North Dark map theme, by the way, is the map theme that is recommended for the map I'm using, which I think is called the Trident. A lot of people ask me what the map is. I think it's called the Trident, and the map theme that gave us the very, very green grass was North Dark. That's the name of those two things. For those asking about a collection of my mods, I have two, but they're outdated, and I don't really have any plans in updating them until I'm completely done with Emerald County, because my mods change all the time. There's no guarantee I'm going to be using the same set of mods from one episode to the next, so when I'm done, I will go ahead and throw everything I was using right there at the end into one collection, and it'll be linked in the description of that final episode. But I don't really know when that final episode is going to be. This project alone has just added 2 more episodes to the entire series that I didn't really plan on having, but I think that's actually something I'm okay with. And it was something I was questioning. I was a bit worried about it, and hopefully you guys will sort of agree with me on this. But I felt like showing the mistakes and showing the reworkings and showing the, hey, we spent so long building this, let's go do it again. I think showing that process is okay. I think it would be wrong of me to say that, hey, this stuff that we built, it's all great and I love every bit of it, and I never ever feel like redoing any of it, because I feel like redoing things all the time. I feel like redesigning my YouTube thumbnails and banners and my editing, I feel like changing stuff all the time. I look at something and go, how can I make this better? And I don't think that's a bad thing. My counter-argument to that every time, though, especially with this series, is I've now made you watch several episodes where we've built something that no longer exists. But I think I can justify that. And I, at least personally, feel okay justifying it by saying that the point of this whole thing is for me to build something that, when I'm done with it, I can look at it and go, you know what? That's pretty cool. That's something I'm proud of. And I feel like the journey to get to that point is just as important as actually getting to that point. And I do sincerely hope that you guys will agree with me on that. Now, with that said, that is pretty much all of the time lapse that we have for this episode. So I'm going to hand it off to technically future me, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, so this is the skyline of Emerald City as it currently is. It's not finished, obviously. There is a few more buildings I'd maybe like to throw in there, but I am really pleased with how this whole project's coming together already. With only spending 1 episode on it thus far, I do feel like we have a much better skyline than we had with the previous versions of Emerald City and the previous versions of the high-rise highway, which is a concept that has now been thrown out the window, I guess, because this is no longer a high-rise highway, as it is a bit of a knockoff Lower Manhattan. I have gone ahead and made one change since the time lapses were recorded and I've sat down to do this section of the video, and that change has been made in the space between the shopping mall and the pools and the cathedral. You might remember, if you spotted it in the time lapse, that the key didn't run the whole way along this side of the city, and in fact stopped somewhere around where the camera is at the moment. It now runs up along the side of the city here, around the cathedral, and stops underneath the bridge that you can see off there in the distance. The reason I decided to add this area here is because I felt like having the key end here just wasn't right. It felt weird having the water run right up to this road here with no kind of sea wall, I guess is what this technically is, especially with these giant buildings right here. That's generally not something you're going to see, and that's generally something that's a little bit weird. So I felt like going ahead and doing this kind of thing just made sense, really. That's not to say that I'm going to go ahead and continue this path here the whole way up. It would probably look kind of interesting if I did, but I don't really see a good way to go ahead and do that. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to come under here with a regular path and just go sort of over that way, so that you can absolutely come down this way. You can absolutely walk along the water, but, you know, you're not necessarily going to be having any zoning down here. I don't really want to put any buildings on the pathway that comes down this way anyway. So it's going to come down like this. It's going to pretty much follow the key quite nicely around to there. And I want to find a good way to get it to connect to that path, which honestly might just be that. That seems like it might be the best way to do it. Just a little simple connection there that takes you on this path here. I am probably going to go ahead and... Oh, it's tempting to put some zoning there, but I think I might turn this into a park, like an actual park with things in it, as opposed to just these areas of trees and hedges. So that's something that we're probably going to have to do. This area over here, I would like to go ahead and just get rid of some of these hedges and connect this straight through like that to about that point. And I want to do the same on this side so that you can go onto this little path and you can absolutely go ahead and go to the church or the cathedral from over here. But there's only two little connections, and really, that's all I think it needs. So with that all done, I guess we need to figure out what goes into this space. And I just want to point out, there is actually someone... I just spotted someone using that path. I seem to have lost them, but there was absolutely someone walking along that. I want to... Yeah, there we go. Hello. Someone's cycling along it. Oh, that's beautiful. That really is beautiful. If we just go in like this, you know, you can... I love this. I do want to look into putting some... Not necessarily zoning, but some kind of road over here. There isn't really the space to do zoning here ever since I added the mountain into that particular spot. That is a mountain that I added, right? I'm pretty sure that is one of the mountains that I put in there. There might have been a hill already. It looks like one of the ones I would have done. But I do want to, you know, continue a road around here, bring a road over this way, and eventually connect it up to the highway over in this spot. It is worth mentioning that you didn't see me add this connection in the time-lapse. This was done after the time-lapse as well. I decided to add in a road connection here, which I'm actually quite happy with. It's functioning pretty poorly at the moment because it is the only connection to the city, but I think this will be a pretty decent connection to have once we get some other ones in. This one should start filtering traffic really nicely. I also added in some little roads here. None of those have zoning on them. They're just there for pedestrians to use and maybe the occasional commercial vehicle. And I extended the train lines just a little bit too. Now with that, let's get back to this space. This is actually what I would like to get finished in this episode. All of these little open areas here and around here as well. This space is going to be... Well, I was going to say tricky, but you know what? It probably isn't. If I go ahead and get rid of those hedges there, and we go in with a nice pathway, just like that. If I bring it around the key, keeping it at a... Do I want to keep it at a distance, or do I want to take it right up to the edge? Now that's a question, because that is a thing I could totally do. I could put a pathway like that, which takes people right along the front of the water. Which could look nice, actually. I think I might do that on this side. I'm not going to go back and redo all of the pathways that I've already done, but having people walking along the water here could look kind of nice. So if I do that and connect you, I like it. I can put some hedges here. I can make this another nice big park. And what I can also do is connect this same pathway to these roads over here. So let's just continue this around. And I think I'll have it sort of wrap itself up. I'm thinking there. Then we put some kind of park in here as well, or up here. I think up here might be good. So let's connect to there and to there. And then just do a straight section of road from, or straight section of path, sorry, from there to there. Now that didn't work. Kind of annoying. We'll do that. There we go. So this does give room for me to extend it a little bit further if I want to, which I might very well want to do. So it's always nice to have that option. We'll go ahead and extend you to about there. And we'll extend this one to there. And this one as well can just go to about there. All right. So we are going to need to put some hedges around all of this, which is going to take a little bit of time, but that's all right. I also realize this hospital could probably use... Well, it kind of has a connection there, but I think what I want to do is go from... Can I go from there? I mean, I can, but I feel like I want to get this pathway to sort of line up real nicely. So if I did that... Something like that might be good, yeah. And then if I continue it straight into this road, we have a little area here that we can turn into, you know, not a park, but a little area of green space. Also, I totally saw someone cycling this road just there. Or this pathway. I keep calling them roads. I don't know why. I've never called them roads. Anyway, let's go ahead and get all of the hedges into these spaces. Well, all of the hedges are in place, and it's definitely not the neatest job I've ever done, but I'm happy with how it looks, to be honest. It's definitely going to look better once we get some trees in there. I did decide to line the backs of buildings as well, because I felt like that kind of needed to be done to make it feel right, but we'll go ahead and get some trees in here, get some decorations, and get some props, and hopefully we can make this entire promenade look absolutely fantastic. I'm going to start in this area just here because I haven't actually gone ahead and added any of these trees into this space. I also need to finish up some of these spaces around here and in here, and then obviously move into this space over here as well. Now, I was following a bit of a pattern with the way I was placing trees. I was using these little trees here, these cypress trees, and I would put a small group of them, not using a brush, but just a small group of them in corners like that. And then the main area, the main space, would be filled up with the big oak trees. So just a bunch of little cypress trees in corners. We can actually sort of put a bunch of them here and almost look like a much, much bigger group of them. Just like that. Then the inner space is sort of filled up with oak trees. You can sort of plop a cypress tree just here and there as well if you want to. And just looking at this space, it looks like a... well... I could do a pathway through here to that door, sort of the way I did on this building over here. But I don't think I will. I think that side of the building's fine. Those are small enough doors that I don't think it really matters. So let's just go ahead and add a few more cypress trees to these corners around here as well. And this one's going to be easy enough to do. We'll just do a few like that. Looks all right to me. And then just the same kind of thing in all of these as well. We'll go ahead and just add a small handful of them there. Small handful of them there. We could probably do with a few in the middle there as well. Sort of branching back a little bit. And then a few in this corner as well. And I'm not going to make you watch me place every single one of these. That would be an absolute torture. But what I will do is I'll walk you through the process for going ahead and adding in the oak trees as well, which, I mean, I'm sure you know how to add a bunch of oak trees to an area, but if you don't, then I'll show you. It's okay. This is a learning process. I also want to add some of these trees. These are the London plane trees, which are quite nice, but I haven't yet found anywhere that they would be ideal. I also realized this is a different type of tree to the one I was using before. This is the tree, the big sort of standard oak tree. This is the live oak tree, which is enormous, but I really like it. I'm going to add a few of those about and sort of just dot them about the place to make just a bit of contrast, because they do add some pretty good height to areas of trees. So get a few in there. There's actually a few spots I haven't even placed the cypress trees yet, which is kind of annoying, actually. Gonna have to deal with that. I think I'll add a few of these smaller oak trees into that space just there. I can put a couple of different things in those spaces. Maybe the London plane trees? Maybe not. Maybe we'll not place those. Get a few more of these big oak trees into this space around here. And we can fill in those spaces in just a little bit. So just in there like that. And then we'll come to this space here. So another big oak tree. We'll do a slightly smaller version of it there. We'll do another big one there. And there. And then we'll go for sort of the standard oak tree that I was using. Again, just going ahead and making this area look quite dense. I think having it separated by all the pathways and all of the hedges and all that stuff means that we can sort of get away with having some almost overly dense trees. I just think it works. And like I said, when I was looking at Lower Manhattan, it did look like the trees were very, very dense. It didn't look like they were just, you know, dotted about the place here and there, which, I mean, I am doing. I'm just dotting them about the place here and there in a kind of dense manner. So we'll do a few cypress trees like that. And we'll do a few cypress trees in there. And dot a few of them along there as well. And a few along there as well. And just into that corner too. There we go. I honestly think that looks pretty decent. It looks like it's horrendously overgrown from this side, but I'll put some flowers and stuff along here maybe to just make it look a bit better. And I think once we get this side decorated as well, it should be okay. So what I want to do here is go ahead and make a little area where people can sit if they want to. They can have lunch, they can just enjoy the sun, or, well, do whatever really. So I'm going to put a few of these little tables in around here. And I'm going to put some trees in there in just a moment. Not very dense trees. Definitely not very dense trees, but some trees nonetheless. I'm actually thinking these picnic tables might be a better bet. Ooh, what are these? I'm assuming that's a vegetable garden. Yeah. I was going to say, I've searched table and I got these. That said, it does look kind of decorative, doesn't it? That's tempting, but I think we'll stick with what we have. Let's just go ahead and search for some benches as well, because that's something that we're absolutely going to want here now that I think about it. I realize I haven't put benches anywhere along any of these paths, which is definitely an oversight and definitely something I'm going to want to go around and fix, because there would be so many benches along all of this. I guess we have some there, but you know, this space along here would have some benches. There'd be, I mean, there's some tables and benches in there, but there's definitely room for more benches, especially that bit too. Good lord. Definitely going to need to go and get some of those. But we have a few benches there. Let me just go ahead and search for a parasol so that I can add one of those, or just a few of those, to some of those tables. Not necessarily all of them. We'll add a couple to those two. We'll get one just there as well. And one just there as well. Alright, so that just makes the area look like you could go in there and enjoy the sun. I'll put a nice tree in that corner. I'll put a nice tree in that corner. And then I think just a little bit of grass around there could make the area look a little bit more alive without necessarily just, you know, blocking the sun for all of the tables. A bit of grass here and there. I could, if I wanted to, I could definitely do some, I could do one of these. It's a bit of a different style of tree, but I think it helps. And maybe just a smaller one there. And we'll do one there as well. There we go. I think that looks alright. Something a bit different for the area. I think it's very important to have something a bit different. We've gone ahead and filled out this space as well. I do need to figure out what to do along this edge. I realize that putting this pathway along the quay would have been a pretty good thing for the entire area. because I wouldn't have this problem, but that's fine. These things happen, we live and we learn. This area in here is definitely done. I think this needs to be another sort of park. Well, no, we have a skate park there, we have a park thing there, and a couple of buildings there. Maybe it doesn't need to be another seating area. Although I think it would look nice, so maybe we will do that. What I will do first is get some nice big oak trees just in here. And get some of the smaller ones too. Just like that. We'll make that area particularly dense. I am going to want to get myself some hedges. That's for sure. So if I search for those, I can put some hedges along this edge of the carousel park. Which I don't think I've ever actually used in City Skylines before. So let's just do that. We'll hold control whilst we place the line, which lets us go ahead and edit this after placing it. That may have just deleted it, which isn't really what I was looking for, but that's okay. We can just place it again. So if I go from there to there, hold control whilst I place it, I'm looking for that little bit there, so I can just drag these out, which apparently isn't gonna work the way I want it to. Okay, well, third time's the charm, as they say. So if I just do that, I'll hold control, and I'll just go to these settings instead. I just wanted to change the spacing so that they were actually together, which they now are. So, with that done, we place it, and that looks pretty good to me. So let's look at this space. What do we want to do with it? I'm thinking dirt path through the middle, some benches and chairs, and all that stuff through here, some tables and all that stuff. So we'll delete that little section of hedges. And we'll delete that little section of hedges. And we'll go in like this. So just a little bit of a curve there. Then we want it to curve sort of back up a little bit. Then that way. Over to there. Down a little bit. And straight to there. Alright. That looks pretty good to me. Get a couple of trees in there. It'll look a bit better. I am going to search for something that'll make this look even better, though. Which is this little decal just here. Not that one. This one. Because that'll let me sort of blend the dirt a little bit. Rather than having it just be this very distinct and weird line. It just lets it look like it's, you know, sort of blended away from the paved area. Like maybe, you know, this is an area that's in a little bit of disrepair or something like that. So we'll do that. And we'll do sort of that, I think. Maybe that as well. There we go. I think that looks alright. Looks pretty decent. We can get ourselves some tables and some benches and some trees in here. And then all we need to do is go and decorate this space all along here, which I think is probably mostly going to be trees. At least this space up here is all going to be trees. This might still be a park, but we'll see. Well, that's done. It was fairly easy. It was just a case of adding a bunch of tables and some trees and a bit of grass here and there, and we have an area where people can go and sit if they want to. There's also some benches that I added to some of the paths, and I do need to get rid of some of the trees that are along the main section of Promenade there, but this is coming along quite nicely. There is, however, one more area that we want to look at, and I've got a pretty cool idea for it, actually. This is the area that we're dealing with, and I've gone ahead and added this little section of dirt path here that sort of loops around like this. And what I want to do with that is basically make a little market. I think that could be really nice to just have a simple set of little market stalls in here so that this looks like it is just a little like fruit market, I guess. It's not like there's going to be, you know, all that much else I can do with it. It's just mostly gonna be fruit, but I think it could look real nice if we had like just this little market thing going on here. So we'll do just a few stalls like this. Some of different colors, some aren't. It's definitely a bit of a tricky area to set up your market stall. It is a bit of a hill, but we can certainly make it work. And we can certainly hide the fact that it's a hill with a little bit of grass and stuff back there as well. So fear not, your market stall is hopefully not going to fall over. I think I'll stick with the word hopefully, to be honest. That is the idea, that it won't fall over. Do something like that as well. A couple of little stalls there, looks kind of nice. We'll do a couple of stalls on this side as well. It's not going to be a huge market. It's definitely not that. But I think just a few little stalls here and there to just bring the area to life could look kind of nice. Unfortunately, no one's ever really going to walk through this area, which means that it's never really going to look all that alive, but that's alright, I suppose. That's no big deal. Do something like that, and I think we can get one more just in here. So let's do that and that. Okay. That looks okay. I can put some trees around it. I can put a nice big colorful tree in the middle. I don't think there's any more decoration that I'd really want here. We do, by the way, absolutely need to go and get some more construction sites into the city. We had a few of those, and obviously they have since been removed since we've completely redone the city. I'm absolutely gonna be doing more of those. That is a thing that needs to happen. Now what I will do is I'm gonna add a bench just there. And I'm going to add a bench just there. And I think I'm going to add one of these sort of tables and chairs just back here so that, like, you know, maybe the people running these stalls have somewhere to sit from time to time. I don't think you'll necessarily see the tables and chairs all that much once I get the trees in, but that's all right. Does that work? No. That's way too big. These London plane trees might work, but they're also enormous. What about these? That kind of works. It's much less thick than the giant oak tree we have here. The giant oak trees can go in, but they're going to be fairly central like that, with the rest of the market sort of based around them. So something like that. A couple of these smaller oak trees on the outsides, maybe a big old oak tree there, and maybe a big oak tree just over here as well by the entrance. And then some of the smaller oak trees along here as well. I don't want to completely enclose this thing, which I realize is almost what I'm doing here, so I'm going to take those out. Because I think that was pretty much completely enclosing it, wasn't it? We'll do one giant sort of oak tree, like that one, right in the middle. And get rid of that one there. Put a couple of the smaller ones just there and there. And then we can ever so slightly enclose it at this end, because this isn't going to be anything to do with the market. This is just going to be trees. So if we can close it a little bit here, we can get some cypress trees around here as well to, you know, make it blend in with everything else that's going on. So something a bit like that. And a few little cypress trees along there as well. And we could do a few just along there too. Just, again, to make it feel like it belongs to the area. So that it matches the theme of everywhere else. Just like that. And then I think just a little bit of grass here and there. There's a couple of little tufts just in a few different places. Will absolutely make this feel like it is not necessarily a makeshift market, but it's a market that definitely hasn't been given its own paved patch of land yet. It's not they're illegally or anything. They're not illegally trading. They're just haven't quite made it yet. It's a small market. Very, very small market. They've been granted a bit of land, and there's some very, very rough pathways there. I decided to keep it quite simple with what I did for the space between the pathway and the quay. And I also decided to change up some of the trees behind the church. As you can see, there's some cypress trees in there. As for all of the other empty spaces, well, they're just trees, and I feel like it works, honestly. When you look at this space from above, it works. You have these giant buildings, and then you have this beautiful just ring of green space around the entire knockoff Manhattan. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there for today, ladies and gentlemen. I know this area is still empty. I'm actually thinking I'm probably going to leave that the way it is. I could definitely do with adding a few bits of variation to these trees, you know, maybe a bigger one here and there, maybe some grass around them, a bit of something in here would be nice as well. But this whole area, I'm so pleased with. When you look at it from above, it really does just work. It really does. I'm so pleased with how that looks from up here. I do actually need to very quickly go and bring some water out to you and some water out to you. And I'm not entirely sure how we're going to get electricity to this guy, which is annoying because he definitely needs it. I mean, to be honest, I could probably get away with hiding some of these power lines sort of in here. If I did something like, let's see, if I did something like that and sort of hide the power lines just like that. Yeah, you don't really see that. You see a patch of, you know, dirt for no apparent reason, but it gives this guy electricity, and that's kind of what I wanted. I'm also noticing a van. Is that's a police? Oh, that's actually kind of cool. Oh, hold on a minute. We need a first-person view of this. If only I could get rid of the cinematic camera thing there on the right. But this is what the view is for a van driving down this road. Obviously going through the trees. I am probably going to change this pathway. Because at the moment, obviously, the trees are on it. They're not necessarily wanted, those tiny little oak trees. So I'm probably going to change it up and go for a version of this path that doesn't have the oak trees on it, because we do have giant trees all around it anyway. And I feel like it might look better if it doesn't have the oak trees. What I will do is actually very, very quickly give it a test to see if that's a thing I could do. Now, it is going to delete bits of path here and there. It's going to delete, hopefully, I want to find a space that doesn't, it's not going to delete path. Now that, yeah, that stretch without the oak trees looks so much better. It really does. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to leave it there for today. So, thank you kindly for watching. Emerald County is finally back. You can stop spamming the comments of every other video. It's great. This has been part 27 of Emerald County. There are likely many, many parts to come because I have fallen in love with building once again. So, thank you kindly for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!